AITA for humiliating my brother at dinner after my mom mocked me because I don't own a condo? It all happened during a dinner when the laughter of others decided I was the perfect joke. I trusted that family would protect you, until I understood that it also observes, measures, and points fingers. I listened to my life summed up in a cruel comparison, spoken lightly and applauded thoughtlessly. I felt shame rise within me while others enjoyed the spectacle, convinced they knew the whole story. What they did not know was how much I had silently given to uphold an image that was not mine. In that moment, the pain stopped hurting and started to organize my thoughts. Because when the truth breaks through at a crowded table, there is no turning back. And right there, with all eyes on me, I decided that my silence was over. I have never known the exact moment my family decided I was the rough draft and my brother was the final version, but I understood it with perfect clarity on the night of the dinner, when my name was uttered like a punchline instead of a presence. We were seated around a long table in a private room of an upscale restaurant, the wood polished to reflect the overhead lights, with plates aligned like soldiers and gazes ready to fire. I had arrived on time as always, with that absurd habit of thinking punctuality still signified respect. My mother occupied the head of the table, sitting upright, impeccable, with a smile that did not signal affection but control. My brother was at her right, relaxed and comfortable in his role of inherited success. I sat where there was space, which was always the same spot, close enough to hear but far enough not to matter. Not even a minute had passed when I felt that strange silence, the one that precedes a statement that cannot be taken back. My mother gently tapped the table with her spoon, not to ask for attention, but because she was already assured of it. She said my name with an intonation I knew well, the one she used when she was about to make me feel small without raising her voice. She commented with a light laugh that we all knew how proud she was of my brother, of his spacious, bright condo with magazine-worthy views. She paused for a calculated, precise moment, and then added that some people looking directly at me still had not achieved something like that. She did not say it with anger, but like someone pointing out a stain on someone else's tablecloth. The laughter came quickly, obediently, as if it were part of the menu. Cousins, uncles, and acquaintances who only show up when there are large tables and opportunities to look down on others. I felt the air thicken, each laugh sticking to my skin. My brother said nothing, he just smiled. That smile was his favorite language. It was not the first time they had compared me to him, but it was the first time they did it with an audience and hot plates of food. While they talked, my mind replayed scenes no one at that table knew about. Endless nights of work, difficult decisions made without applause, and silent agreements signed with only my word as collateral. I remembered the day my brother called me. His voice hurried, asking for help to cover the expenses of a condo he could not afford on his own. I remembered how he spoke of discretion, of family, of it being a temporary arrangement. I agreed without thinking of any advantage for myself, because I still believed that helping one another brought us closer. For years I paid on time. For years, that condo was not a symbol of success but just another bill. And now, there it was, turned into a trophy used to humiliate me. My mother, carried away by the others' laughter, continued, asking aloud if I would ever have something similar or if I would keep settling for the bare minimum. She claimed she did not mean any harm, that it was just an observation. In my family, observations always had a sharp edge. I felt something shift inside me, not like an explosion, but like a decision that could no longer be postponed. I did not raise my voice. I did not slam the table. I simply took a breath, looked at my mother, then at my brother, and waited for the noise to quiet down enough so my words would not get lost in the laughter. I said that the story about the condo was not exactly as they were telling it. I said she was right, that I did not own one. There was another laugh, anticipatory, almost automatic. Then I added, with the same calm I had felt signing every bank transfer, that the condo had been my home for years, even if my name was not on the deed. That I had lived there as a tenant, paying the rent month after month without fail. That the owner, my dear brother, had preferred to keep that detail out of family conversations. I did not look up as I said it. I let the words do their work on their own. The effect was immediate. The noise cut off as if someone had flipped an invisible switch. Laughter died in open mouths. Forks and knives froze midair. My mother blinked several times, as if trying to read something that was not written. Her posture faltered just slightly, enough to give her away. My brother stopped smiling. He did not frown or protest. He just sat there, frozen, with the expression of someone who has just lost control of a story they thought they owned. No one asked anything at first. The silence was so thick it almost hurt. My mother was the first to react. She said my name again, but this time it did not sound amusing. She asked if I was joking. I slowly shook my head. I explained, without getting into unnecessary detail, that it had been an agreement between us, one I had accepted for our mutual convenience. I did not mention the nights I had counted pennies or the times I had canceled plans to make the payment. There was no need. The truth, when presented without embellishment, is more unsettling. My brother tried to intervene, saying this was not the time, that such things should be discussed in private. I looked at him for the first time all night. I told him he had chosen the moment when he allowed me to be ridiculed using his supposed achievement. The table remained silent, but it was no longer a passive silence. It was expectant, uncomfortable, almost nervous. Some people avoided my gaze. Others watched my mother, waiting for invisible instructions. She cleared her throat and said that it did not change anything, that my brother's effort was still admirable. It was then I understood that it did not matter how much I paid, how much I supported, how much I sacrificed. For her, the narrative was already written. I had only made the mistake of reading it aloud. I did not get up from the table. I did not need to run. I remained there with my back straight, while conversations tried to resume without success. Every word sounded forced. My brother avoided eye contact with me. My mother spoke of trivial topics, as if she could erase what had happened by changing the subject. I nodded when necessary, answered in monosyllables, and observed. Inside, something was reorganizing itself with a precision that surprised me. It was not anger I felt, it was clarity. I remembered all the times I had given up space to avoid making others uncomfortable, all the times I had accepted reduced versions of myself to fit in. I understood that the problem was not the condo or the money or even the mockery. The problem was the permission I had given them to use me as a contrast. That night, without planning it, I had withdrawn that permission, and that had consequences. When the dinner came to an end, no one suggested extending it. The goodbyes were quick and awkward. My mother gave me a kiss on the cheek, colder than usual, and said we would talk later. My brother did not say goodbye. I stepped outside into the cool night air with a strange sensation, as if I had crossed an invisible line. It cleared my head. I did not feel triumph nor relief. I felt that something had started to shift, like a piece sliding quietly into place. That same night when I got home to the condo, I went through a folder I had been avoiding for a long time. Bank statements, text messages, and receipts. I was not looking for immediate revenge, but for order. For the first time, I looked at everything without nostalgia or guilt. I saw patterns, I saw decisions made without me at the table. I saw how my silence had been convenient for others. I closed the folder carefully. I did not call anyone. I did not write long messages. I just sent a brief text to my brother, informing him that from now on, any agreements had to be formalized in writing. Nothing more. The next morning brought no apologies or missed calls. It brought something worse, feigned normality. My mother sent me a short, proper text, as if the previous night had been just another dinner and not a fracture. She said we should talk soon, that family matters should not be aired out in front of others. She did not mention what she had said. She did not acknowledge the mockery. I read the message once and did not reply. I learned long ago that silence, when chosen, can be clearer than any explanation. That same day my brother tried a different approach. He called me around noon with a voice that pretended to be calm. He said we needed to clear up some misunderstandings, that I had exaggerated, that there were details the family did not need to know. I asked him which ones. He was silent for a few seconds, long enough for me to understand he was not talking about details but about control. I told him that everything I had said was verifiable, and that I had no interest in correcting a truth just so others could feel comfortable. He ended the call quickly. He did not insist. That too was an answer. The following days were a series of small gestures that, together, formed a strategy. My mother began calling relatives I barely spoke to, planting softer, incomplete versions of the story. I knew because a few of them texted me with questions wrapped in concern. They said they wanted to understand, that there was confusion. No one asked how I had felt. They asked what had happened with the agreement with the condo with the money. I responded to a few. I left the others with their uncertainty, not because I lacked words, but because I no longer wanted to hand them out for free. Meanwhile, I began to notice practical changes. The building manager of the condo called to confirm some information. He said he had received conflicting instructions. He did not seem surprised. I asked him to email me everything he had on file under my name. When I hung up, I felt a mix of calm and alertness. I was not improvising. I was reacting to moves I had not initiated. This put me in a different position. I was no longer the awkward guest. I was a piece on the board that had decided to move. I carefully reviewed every document, every receipt, every saved message. I was not looking for weapons but for consistency, and I found it. Years of payments, conversations where my brother thanked me for my help, and promises to formalize the situation when he could. He never did, not because he forgot but because it was not convenient for him. In the meantime, he had built a public image that was now cracking. I had been the invisible support for that image. No one had asked me explicitly. It was simply taken for granted. One afternoon, my mother showed up unannounced. She did not raise her voice when she came in. She did not need to. She sat across from me as if evaluating an object that did not fit in its usual place. She said she was disappointed, not by what I had revealed, but by how I had done it. She said that families resolve things behind closed doors. I asked her since when. She did not answer. She spoke of reputation, of balance, of not destabilizing what was already working. I told her that it worked for her. That sentence made her more uncomfortable than any accusation. She tried to change the focus. She said I had always been sensitive, that perhaps I had misinterpreted her comment at the dinner. I did not accept that version. I reminded her word for word of what she had said. She did not deny it, only said there was no intention to hurt. In that moment, I understood that intention was irrelevant. The effect was already there. She stood up without saying goodbye. Before leaving, she warned me that impulsive decisions have consequences. I nodded. I did not argue. I already knew. The next day, I received a formal notice by certified mail. My brother had decided to review the rental agreement. It spoke of adjustments, deadlines, and new conditions. It made no mention of what had already been paid. It acknowledged nothing from the past. I read the document with an attention I would not have allowed myself before. I saw the urgency disguised as formality. I responded in writing through my own lawyer, requesting a complete review of the payment history and proposing a formal mediation. I did not ask for favors, I demanded clarity. The reaction was immediate. My brother called again. This time he did not try to sound conciliatory. He said I was complicating things, that I did not understand the damage I could cause. I asked him to whom. He said to the family. I replied that the family had started damaging itself long before I spoke up. He hung up without saying goodbye. He did not call again that day. That night, while organizing papers, I found something I had overlooked. An old message accidentally forwarded, where my brother was talking about me to a third party. It was not cruel, but it was revealing. It said I was reliable, that I did not make noise, that I always came through. He said it like someone describing a useful tool. I did not feel sadness reading it. I felt confirmation. Everything fit together too well to be ignored. The rumors began to circulate with more force. Some relatives stopped texting me, while others became overly friendly. No one was neutral. My mother organized a small family dinner without me. I found out later. It did not hurt. It gave me perspective. The space I left was quickly filled with edited versions of me. Meanwhile, I moved forward in silence. I met with the lawyer to review my options. I did not tell him the whole emotional story. I gave him facts, payments, verbal agreements, changes in conditions. He listened without interrupting. In the end, he said I had more leverage than I thought. He did not smile. He did not promise anything. He just pointed out that decisions made without a paper trail often become fragile when someone decides to speak up. I left his office with a new feeling, not of power but of balance. That same week, my mother wrote again. This time the text was longer. She talked about unity, about closing ranks, about not exposing internal mistakes. She was not asking for forgiveness. She was asking for order. I replied with a single sentence. Order cannot be sustained on forced silences. There was no immediate response. My brother, however, changed his strategy. He started showing up in places where he knew I would be. He did not approach, just watched, looking for a reaction I would not give him. On one of these occasions, someone I did not expect came up to me. A cousin I barely spoke to. She told me quietly that she had heard things, that not everything was as it was being told. She asked if it was true that I had carried more than it seemed. I told her yes. I did not add anything else. She nodded and walked away. That brief conversation made more noise than any argument. Shortly after, I received an unexpected call from the building manager. He said he needed to see me. When I arrived at his office, he showed me documents I had not requested. Modified lease agreements and signatures I did not recognize. They were not obvious forgeries but adjustments made without my knowledge. He explained there were inconsistencies, and that he preferred to clear them up before they escalated into a legal issue. I thanked him for his prudence. I left with copies and an uncomfortable certainty. This was no longer just a family matter. My mother called me that night. Her tone had changed. It was no longer authoritative, it was worried. She asked what exactly was happening, what I intended to do. I told her I intended to protect my interests. She said that could affect everyone. I replied that it had already been affecting me for years. She fell silent. Then she said she never wanted me to feel inferior. I did not respond right away. I told her that intentions do not erase patterns. We hung up without resolving anything. In the following days, the pieces began to move on their own. People who had never been interested in my situation started asking more precise questions. My brother stopped appearing in public. My mother reduced her messages to a minimum. I moved forward with firm steps, without announcing anything. Not because I enjoyed the suspense, but because I understood that every visible move provoked a defensive reaction. The real turning point came when I received an email from someone outside the family circle. Someone who had worked with my brother on a side business venture. He said he had heard my name in a conversation that did not add up, that there were things I should know before any final decisions were made. He did not go into detail. He proposed a meeting. I read the message twice. It was not a threat, it was a warning. I agreed to the meeting without hesitation. I did not ask what he knew or why he was telling me now. I chose a neutral coffee shop with no familiar faces. When he arrived, he did not waste time on pleasantries. He said he had worked with my brother on investments that were not on any official record. He said that to sustain them, my brother had presented financial guarantees that did not entirely belong to him. He said my name once as if testing its weight. I understood in that instant that I had been not only a support but a shield. I listened without interrupting. He showed me emails, incomplete partnership agreements, and half-signed promises. Nothing was scandalous on its own, but altogether they painted a clear pattern. My brother had built his stability on hidden loans and silent favors. I had been one of them, the most consistent one. When I finished reviewing the documents, I did not feel dizzy. I felt something cleaner, coherence. I asked him why he was telling me this now. He replied that the situation was becoming unstable, that soon someone would be exposed, and he preferred it not be me without my knowing. I thanked him for his frankness. I did not ask for more. I had enough. That same afternoon, I requested a family meeting through my lawyer. It was not an open invitation. It was a formal summons. My mother accepted immediately. My brother took hours to reply. He just said he would be there. We met in the same private room where everything had started, but without the long table or the audience. Just 3 chairs and an uncomfortable silence. I started not with reproaches but with facts. I laid out the payment history, the verbal agreements, and the unilateral modifications to the lease. I placed the documents on the table one by one. My brother tried to speak twice. I asked him to wait. My mother watched rigidly, as if each sheet of paper were a blow she had not anticipated. When I finished, I looked up. I told my brother it was time to either formalize everything legally or face the consequences. I did not use threats. They were not necessary. He denied some things and downplayed others. Then I showed him the last pieces of evidence. The external emails, the misallocated financial guarantees, and the name of a third party he had not expected to see there. His face changed, not out of guilt, but out of a miscalculation. My mother intervened, trying to regain control. She said this had gotten out of proportion, that it could be fixed. I replied that I had thought so for years, that fixing things in her language had always meant being quiet. My voice did not rise, did not tremble. That unsettled her more than any shout. My brother ran out of arguments. He proposed a quick deal favorable to him. I told him no, that this time there would be no shortcuts. Everything would be done through the proper channels with lawyers present. He looked to my mother for support. He did not get it. She understood too late that she no longer controlled the scene. The following days moved quickly. Too quickly for those who believed everything could be diluted with time. Contracts were reviewed, responsibilities were adjusted, and doors that had been open only for some were closed. The condo ceased to be a symbol. It became a data point in a legal settlement. Debts found their owner. Narratives lost their power against clear records. My brother stopped calling me. My mother tried with a different tone. She spoke to me as if she had just discovered who I was. I offered her neither comfort nor punishment. I told her I needed time. She respected that, perhaps for the first time. I did not celebrate. There was no euphoria. There were consequences. Some people drifted away, while others approached with caution. I continued with my routine, but something had changed. I no longer entered spaces with an invisible plea for permission. I occupied the space that belonged to me without explanations. One day I walked past the condo building. I felt no nostalgia. I thought about everything I had supported without recognition, about how silence can feel like loyalty until it becomes a burden. I kept walking without looking back. Months later, I received a text from my brother. It was brief. He admitted his mistakes. He did not ask for forgiveness. I did not reply, not out of resentment, but because it was no longer necessary. My mother and I slowly reconnected, without grand speeches or dramatic scenes. She understood that our relationship could only exist without hierarchies. It was not easy for her. It was not for me either, but it was real. Sometimes I think about the dinner, about the laughter that set everything in motion, not as a wound but as an origin. If it had not happened, perhaps I would still be paying for a place that was never mine. The truth did not arrive like a sudden blow. It arrived like the precise sum of many decisions. Today, when someone tries to tell my story for me, I do not intervene immediately. I wait. I let them talk. The difference is that now, when the silence comes, it does not diminish me. It belongs to me. Comment. Thank you for spending time with this story today. I hope it serves as a gentle reminder that your truth holds immense power, even when spoken quietly. Setting boundaries is not an act of conflict, but an act of profound self-respect and kindness toward yourself. You cannot control how others perceive you, but you can define how you allow yourself to be treated. True healing begins when you decide your own peace is more important than maintaining a dysfunctional peace. It is about reclaiming your narrative with dignity, not seeking revenge. This journey is often made up of small, consistent steps, not one grand gesture. Always remember that you have the right to protect your well-being. I hope you find the strength to honor your own experiences and the wisdom to choose your inner calm. Be patient and compassionate with yourself along the way. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.